Hi everyone, welcome back to SanaA's garden and welcome if you're new here. In this video I'm going to show how to propagate the spider plant. So I'll be showing at least 3 ways to propagate them. So Chlorophytum cosmosum is the botanical name of what we usually call as spider plant. So spider plant is a very commonly grown house plant. They produce a rosette of thin, long, arched foliage that is in solid green or variegated with white. The spider plant's pups are the offshoots that grow out from the main plant. These offshoots will usually flower in summer. They produce these tiny white flowers, and if the flowers are not pollinated, the spider plants will produce babies or pups from these flowers. And if these flowers are pollinated, they will produce seeds instead of the pups. So once they are mature enough, the plantlets or pups can be grown into individual plants. So I will be discussing the different ways how we can plant these pups. You can choose to propagate the pups or leave them as it is on the stems, and they just look very attractive dangling from the parent plant. But mine has produced so many pups that it's starting to look a bit messy, and it's high time to cut them off. And they looked pretty for quite a while, like for a year or so it would look pretty, but now that there's a couple of stems offshoots that's coming from the parent plants, and it's starting to look really messy, so I'm just going to remove them. And also, if you can see that my plant is also starting to divide from the base itself, it's producing many more babies right from the roots, so I do need to divide it immediately. There are mainly 2 ways how the spider plant can be propagated. That's by rooting and by division. And rooting itself can be done in 3 ways. The first way of rooting is planting the pups with still attached to the mother plant. If we look closely at the base of the pups, there are these tiny swellings which will later form the tubers or roots of the plants. So planting the pups is really simple by this way. You just place the pups so its roots or the base is touching the soil, and water this as required, and the pup will establish roots in a few weeks. And when you feel like it's rooted well enough, you can just cut off the pup from the offshoots. So as you can see, my offshoots have multiple pups, and it's not practically possible for me to plant each and every pup by this way. So I'm just demonstrating how this can be done, rooting while still attached to the mother plant. The second way of propagation by rooting is rooting the cuttings in water. So for this, select a nice looking healthy looking pup from the offshoot and remove the few leaves from the base, and just place the pup in a container or a bowl or something with water, and make sure that these white swellings are dipped in the water. Once the roots are established, you can transfer this pup to a pot with the potting soil and compost, and there you have a completely new plant. So now I'm going ahead and removing or cutting all my pups away from the offshoots. Make sure you use a clean and sterile knife or scissor to cut the pups. So that's all the pups from just one whole spider plant. And now coming to the third way of propagation by rooting, which is potting the individual plant or pup into its own pot. So it is very simple and self-explanatory. So we just take a single pup and plant it in their own little pot. Here my plant is already getting ready to produce new offshoots for the summer. So from here again we're going to have some flowers and some new pups. So now coming to the second way of propagation, which is by division. So division is, as the name suggests, you divide the plant from the base by detangling their roots. So spider plants grow very quickly and can become really root bound, and just like mine is. It's been sitting here in this pot for the past 2 years. So make sure to repot it at least every year if possible. It can be grown outdoors in the summer and out of sunlight as well. So division is basically if you have at least 2 healthy growing clumps in a single pot, you can divide them. So splitting a spider plant can be really difficult, and if you have a mature pot bound, root bound plant like mine, it will be too difficult. But actually my plant had an elastic band around their crown, so that was the reason I was struggling. So once I cut the rubber band, it was easy to detangle them. So if the roots are really thick and tightly packed, you need to use a sterile knife to cut through the roots. Otherwise, just simply tease the roots apart until the clumps are separated. So what I did here is I just held the single plant by their crown and teased the roots, and they came out, they separated easily. So there we have it, propagation of a spider plant by division. So I separated all the healthy looking single clumps from the main clump, which is my main plant, and repotted them in all different pots so they grow to a new main plant. So there we have it, all my pups, all my spider plants planted in their own individual pots. I have demonstrated 4 ways of propagation, actually 3 ways of rooting and 1 way by division. This is all my pups after a couple of weeks. They have grown out so well, and it is just amazing to see how much growth they have put on and how green they have become. And the little ones in these 4-inch pots are just amazing. I mean, this is actually, if I can recall, that was my main plant which I had originally purchased, and I have all of these from that single size of a plant. It is really amazing to see. And as you all can see, like the ones which I had propagated by division, they are starting to produce offshoots again, and that's some new pups coming, and that's a lot actually. I think we may be propagating them again next year. So this is where the pups come again. So I'll show also the flowers, and I think one of them is producing flowers. Yeah, this one. So they produce these tiny little white flowers in summer, and if they are pollinated and not pollinated, they produce either pups or they produce flowers. So that's how the thing goes. So here's again one more offshoot coming from my other plant. So I hope you all learned something from this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope this also gave you some inspiration to get something done in your garden today. Thanks for watching. Bye.